can conquer the notoriously challenging hi-hat barks when you know what to practice. I'll show you the best techniques for pulling these off, and I'll share with you a practical exercise to get smooth open note barks happening in your grooves. You can do this. I'll show you the exact foot technique as well as the right hand technique to execute these really well and really smoothly. And I'll teach you a series of exercises that build off of one another to really work this out and get to where you can play these quick hi-hat cuts or barks anywhere in a groove that you want to, which is really cool, and it's a great feeling being able to expressively throw those in. Something that was very exciting for me, I know, the first time I learned this. Then at the end of the video, I'll also show you a way to just totally cheat at this method and just randomly throw in hi-hat cuts at will in the midst of a fast groove, which is also really cool and simpler and easier than you might think. In order to play hi-hat barks well, or any hi-hat open note, you have to be in complete command of note length. So this means a precise left foot. When you think about it, this is really the only thing on the drum set where we're controlling a note length. Everything else, you know, we could hit a crash and then choke it or whatever, but hi-hat open notes are always going to be a distinct length, whether it's an eighth or a 16th or a quarter. And so we have to be very aware of that, and we have to be fully in control of when we're cutting that off. So we have to have a precise left foot. So really this starts with left foot coordination. If you've struggled with being able to play these or do clean open notes, it might actually be that your left foot is the issue and it's just not playing precise enough. So we're going to start there. So here's the exercise. This is just a simple left foot timing exercise, but we want to get really good at timing the left foot with whatever our hands are doing. So we're just going to play 16ths on the snare, and we're going to close the hats with our left foot on the beats, then on the E's, E of the beat, then on the and, then the The reason it's hard to play musically on the hats, and the reason that we tend to leave the hi-hat out of the mix, is just because we haven't really taken the time to train our left foot. But you're taking action on this, you're watching this video, so I hope that you take further action by going and practicing all of this I'm showing you, because you're going to develop that left foot. It's going to be awesome. So next thing we want to do, actually before we get into the next thing, we want to talk a little bit about stick placement, because when you play these open notes, we want maximum contrast between open notes and closed notes. So that means when we're playing closed notes on the hats, we really want to be about right here. But when we play an open note, we want to slide the stick a little further in, a little bit steeper, so that we're actually digging in more, so that we have a louder open note versus a closed note. So there's a lot of contrast there. Now, in order to pull off a really clean, cutting open note, we need to have enough spacing between the hats. I'd suggest at least an inch. If you're not comfortable with that, get comfortable with it, because I assure you, you're going to have more luck with this and you're going to get better sounds if your hats are more open. The tendency a lot of times is to leave your hats about right here and not have them more open than this, the thinking being that you want to be able to play faster chicks and whatnot. But when you're playing fast chicks, you're not opening them all the way anyways. You're keeping your foot down here. So give yourself that full capability. Open your hats all the way. I know it might seem painful and you might be like, Steven, you're crazy. I don't want to do this. Do it. It's going to make this easier and you're going to sound better as a result. That way, when we play that open note, we're able to strike the hats when they're slightly loose, because we want to have them slightly loose when we hit, then gradually open them more throughout the duration of that note, so then we close back. We play our chick. We don't want them already open when we hit them. That doesn't sound interesting. And we don't want them still closed when we hit them. They've got to be sloshy, they've got to be loose. So keeping that in mind, watch carefully, pay attention here as I'm playing this next exercise where we're going to do what we just did, where we're timing the left foot, we're closing it on beats, E's, ands, etc. But now we're going to reach over and hit the hi-hats on the 16th before it closes. practice all of that slowly. So that was 50 beats a minute. Start off really slow. Work it really slow, even if you have to do it at first without a metronome just to work your way through it. But as quickly as you can, get a metronome going, be able to play it slowly and steadily with a metronome. It's tough at first, but practicing this, I guarantee you, pays off. It helps so much because you're working your left foot into things and you're giving yourself this musical ability that you haven't had before. Well worth practicing. But of course, we're not done yet. What we want to do now is add the kick in with each of those open notes, because a lot of times in a groove when we're playing these quick little barks, we're also playing the kick also. So it really adds some low end and it's a nice stab. And so that's what we want to do, which of course is another layer of challenge because we've got to time all these things together. There's so much precision involved here. That's why you've got to go slow with this. Start off with the open notes on the uhs, so your left foot is closing on the beats. Hitting the kick with that, do it super slow, and then get it going with the metronome. And of course, practice cycling that whole exercise the whole time the kick lines up with when your hand hits the hats. So again, that was 50 beats a minute, and even at 50, that's kind of a pretty good pace to work this at, and if you can get it there, then you're in really good shape, and from there you can start pushing the tempo up even more. But now we're still not quite done, because that's great if you can do that at this point, you're getting that locked together, then that's awesome, and you're mastering this technique, and you're focusing on getting good sounds and getting things precise. But now we want to start to put it into more of a groove context, and of course there are multiple ways we could do this, because there's a ton of groove contexts. But I just want to get you started, and then after that I'm going to share with you that cheat you can use, the shortcut to literally just like playing all of these at will when you're playing fast, which is really cool. So here's the way we want to turn this into a groove. We'll put both of our hands on the hats, alternating, adding in a backbeat on 2 and 4, and we'll just do quarter notes with the kick. Now there's a couple ways we could play this. So we could do a 4 on the floor groove, 4 on the floor slow with alternating 16ths on the hats, throwing in those cuts on beats, E's, ands, uhs. Or, while keeping that going and keeping the backbeat on the snare, we could actually switch the kick around to then accent those. So practice that both of those ways, where you're doing the 4 on the floor, but then you're also using the kick to accent those hi-hat stabs. That's tough. It's really hard to get that together, especially, you know, it's one of those funny things where when you're going really slow, it actually feels more difficult. But once you can get it locked in slow, it becomes much more effortless when you're going fast. For me personally, it's easier to play that fast. I'd rather sit there and play it fast, because when you're going slow, it exposes these slight inconsistencies, and if anything's slightly off, it's super obvious when you're going slow. But That's kind of the key with anything you learn on the drums, and especially anything complex, and especially if you're learning it the first time. Get it clean slowly, because if you can do that, then it's going to be clean more quickly. But as always, you got to practice this stuff over and over and over again, really slow, building that precision, making sure you're listening to everything, locking everything together, staying with your metronome, then begin to bring the tempo up, and then it really becomes a lot of fun. Okay, this is how you're going to cheat at it. So I love quick tips, quick cheats, and this is something I use all the time. So this is a technique, foot technique. I call it the leg bounce, where I'll literally just bounce my leg on the hi-hat to keep time. I do it all the time when I'm playing. So if you're playing a groove, or maybe this is the 8th note, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, you can reach over and do things like that if you have the autopilot left foot. So once you can do that, this really is an easy cheat, but I don't want to gloss over the fact that yes, you've got to practice 8th note timekeeping with your left foot. But specifically when you do this, keep your big toe planted. Keep the big toe planted on the foot plate, and then just move your heel up and down. And then as you lessen that pressure and you let your whole foot bounce a little bit off the foot plate, you start to get audible chicks. Otherwise, I can do this, barely hearing anything. And as I press a little bit less, let my toe bounce a little bit more, then we start to actually hear the chick sound. And of course, if we went totally loose, then it turns into splashes. So methodically practice the mechanics of doing that leg bounce, where your heel's bouncing up and down, and begin to work that into grooves you're playing. Start with just simple, basic grooves, working that in and getting to where that can be on autopilot, because once you can do that leg bounce on autopilot, then you can reach over and just randomly throw in those little stabs, which is really cool. And because you've put in the practice to lock the kick with that, you have the coordination together and you can actually do it, and you can actually play it precisely and musically. So it's a really fun way to play these quickly without really thinking too much. Hey, if this video helped you out and you want to go a little deeper with mastering the hi-hat, something big that tends to be a struggle with a lot of folks is playing one-handed hi-hat 16ths. Those just tend to be difficult, and there's a lot involved in that, from the mechanics and what your hands are doing, and that's something we didn't really get into today. But I have a free e-guide that goes in depth with how to work on this, how to build the hand strength, how to place your stick exactly correctly, all these hi-hat and stick placement optimization tips to really play these smoothly. It's one of those things that it tends to be more complicated than it really is, and so this guide demystifies it. So be sure to check out the guide, The Secret to Hi-Hat 16ths, playing a hi-hat one-handed 16th groove at 80 beats a minute. One of those things that you can do, you're more capable of learning it than you think you are, and you really can master it when you've got the right steps to follow. And that's what that guide does. So go a little deeper in your journey to master the hats and check out that guide. As always, thanks everyone for watching. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Be sure to check out some of these other videos. There's a whole playlist of videos on hi-hat, because hi-hat is tough. It involves the left foot, and it's a very intricate instrument. So deepen your learning, grab the guide, check out the other videos. Thanks everyone. I'll see you on the next video. Stay non-glamorous.